an exercise, an exam. So these are the outcomes of what I was attending to. That's what we mean by the results. So now we are saying resultant force. What is a resultant force? You discover that if two or more forces act on an object. So I want you to understand this. The key thing is understanding the concept. So I want you to understand this. If two or more, so I will say that if two or more forces act on an object, so act on an object, on an object. So when two or more forces act on an object, they can be simplified. They can be what? They can be simplified. This is what you need to understand. They can be simplified. Since they can be simplified, this process of simplifying them is what we are calling resultant force. So it is called what? It is called resultant force. We are calling it what? Resultant force. This is what you have to know and understand. I guess we are moving together. So if two or more forces, let's say we've got, this is a substance, we've got a force coming this side and another force is coming this side. So these things are pulling each other. This is an object. There is a force this side. There is also another force this side. So these two forces are acting on an object. For us to find the total force that is pulling or pushing this object, we have to understand this thing I get to call resultant force. This is what you are supposed to know. I guess we are moving together. So we are calling it what? Resultant force. And for us to calculate the resultant force, for example, you've got this object. This is an object that is on the surface. This is the surface. So we've got a force that is pushing this thing this side. So this is 8 newtons. Let's just say 8 newtons. We also have another force that is going this other side. Let me say this is 3 newtons, like this. So we've got two forces that are going in the opposite direction. So I want you to understand this. Whenever you've got two forces going in the opposite direction, you need to subtract for you to find the resultant force. So you can't say you say this minus that. You always start with the bigger one. So what you need to do, you know that since this one is bigger than that, you now understand that, okay, so the direction of the force will be this side because this is bigger than that. So the resultant force, what we are going to do, for us to calculate now this resultant force, what I'm going to do, I'll say this is equal to, I'll say 8 newtons minus 3 newtons, which is now equal to what? 5 newtons. So the 5 newtons, the object now will be like this. This is the object. So the forces, all the forces that will remain, which are the 5 newtons, will be going this direction. So all the forces that will remain will be going this direction. So all the forces will point this direction because this is less than that other one. So this 5 newtons is what I'm calling the resultant force. So we get to call it resultant force. This is what you need to understand. So this is the resultant force. I guess we are moving together. This is what you are supposed to know. These are certain things you need to know and understand. So we are moving together. I don't want any person to remain behind. If you've got all the forces going in the same direction, you've got this force 8 newtons, you also have this other force, let me say 10 newtons, going in the same direction. So if all the forces are going in the same direction, meaning we just need to add the resultant force is equal to what? 8 newtons plus 10 newtons. So meaning that the answer will just be 18 what? 18 newtons. So this is the force. So all the forces will have one force, which is 18 newtons going this direction. So This is what you are supposed to know. This is what we get to call resultant force. So these are certain things you are supposed to know.